welcome to the first ever episode. I am Christina Cunningham, and I've created this show to really help our community learn practical and easy to use wellness tips and nutrient-dense foods and habit evolution. So welcome, thank you so much for being here, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about why I created this show. I have been in the Rutland County area for about 14 years, and I absolutely love it here. I am a professional massage therapist and wellness coach, and I'm a lifelong learner, and I study wellness concepts, and I've done trainings, and I really just felt like it was time to give back and to contribute the next level of what I could contribute to Rutland County. So I created this show with the idea that I would present easy to use, practical wellness tools to maximize thrive through the season. So what does that actually mean? What I mean by that is that living here in Rutland County, we have the value of the 4 seasons, and it's so beautiful here and so much richness with natural beauty, resources, but sometimes it can be difficult to be able to transition from one season to the next. I know I've found for myself, I've struggled with that. And so as I've deepened my own study, I've learned some things that have just helped me transition, helped my body transition, helped my mind, helped my spirit. An example, when the dark days of winter are here, how can we lighten that mood? How can we help when it feels heavy and we haven't seen a lot of sunshine? And so I've really been able to put together seasonal tips that I'm going to present that I'm really excited about sharing with you guys. So basically what you can expect from this program are things like nutrient-dense foods, what spices to eat during what season, how to really take care of your physical body, how to maximize your ability to transition when we're talking, through the seasons. So I'm hopeful that this will be very valuable to you and that you'll find it useful. None of it should really be hard to apply. It should really all be very, very easy for you. So I'm looking forward to really a really valuable program that I'm creating. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about myself. I have been in the wellness game since 2001. Right after I graduated from college, I have a degree in English, creative and professional writing with minors in women's studies and sociology. I knew that I wanted to get into natural health care. So at that point, I entered and enrolled in massage therapy school out in Utah. I went through a really, really good program out there, and then I was looking for a place to settle down. I'm originally from New Jersey, and I was pretty clear I didn't want to live in New Jersey. And so I had friends, and I moved up to Vermont, and I've been here ever since. I'm a homeowner in Rutland County as well as a business owner, and a majority of my career has been in massage and body work and learning the ins and outs of mind-body connection, of muscle, pain management, as well as the emotional components of body work and the emotional components of everyday living. In about 2012, I then got my certification in health coaching. And if you don't know what health coaching is, it bridges the gap between when we have a diagnosis of some sort or we're experiencing symptoms and we know that the recommendations are to X, Y, and Z, change our habits, eat better, exercise more. And I'm sure we've all been there. We know what we're supposed to do, but we have found it really, maybe we've done it well for 2 weeks and then our old habits have come back and we've slid off of the path. What a health coach does is really helps support that process. It's an ongoing relationship where I, as the coach, really act as your cheerleader, as your accountability partner, as your, someone who can educate where there maybe needs a little bit of education, but essentially really helps you automate, get to the place where here's where the symptoms are, here's where the recommendations are, and here's where it's automated and it becomes your own. And so I've been a health coach, certified and insured since 2012. I have specializations in fermentation, habit evolution, and very recently I am in training for the Body Thrive Habits. So I have a deep passion for wellness, and I have really dedicated my professional career to a plethora of information. So I'm excited to be able to share it with you guys. What you can expect from the different aspects of this show, I have it kind of divided into 3 segments. The first one is borrowed from Ayurveda. So if anyone is familiar with that word, it is the sister science of yoga. Ayurveda, literally translated, is the science of life. It comes from the continent of India, and it is the oldest written healthcare, wellness, kind of community, medical, I don't know, we could use the word medical loosely, but healthcare systems that civilization has. It's the oldest recorded one. So the wisdom is deep, it's time-tested, and it really is very, very functional and accessible. So a lot of each season, every 3 months, my plan is to have a show like we're going to have today, to really just give you a bunch of things that you can focus on, food and lifestyle related, so that you can maximize the season, so that you learn the elements of the season, learn actually what's happening in your body, and then apply these techniques, these tools, these little tips, so that you feel good. You know, my general intention is that you learn how to really feel good and comfortable and happy and content in your body, because I truly believe that when we feel good in our body, then we are able to bring out our natural gifts, our unique gifts that reside inside each individual person. We're able to bring those out and share them with the world. And what I know more than anything is that what the world needs is people that are really connected to their own unique gifts, and that they're giving those unique gifts to the world, and that they're lit up and they're turned on and they're excited about life. And I have found in my own journey that in order to do that, I have to feel good. And in order to do that, I have to take care of myself. So we will be deriving a lot of those wellness tips from Ayurveda, as well as habit evolution, Chinese medicine will be in there, and mind-body principles, and all of these things. I will really draw from all of those resources and present these things to you. Another segment, another part of the show will be what I'm calling nutrient-dense foods. So I will be over in the kitchen, and I will be showing you, I really believe that the kitchen should be considered one of the pharmacies of our home, and that we really, as staple foods, need to have these foods that are not just entrees or appetizers or components of a meal, but they're these staple foods that really provide us with deep nourishment and nutrients. And so I am going to be showing you some of what I consider the important staple foods. On my list are bone broth, sauerkraut, miso, how to sprout, green smoothies, you know, and all of these will be seasonal. If you have any suggestions or you want to know about anything and you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to comment, and definitely like and subscribe to the channel. So nutrient-dense food seasonally, and then the third component that I'm really excited about is self-massage. So as a massage therapist, I've spent literally, thousands and thousands of hours of taking care of people's bodies, helping people connect to how they feel, what's hurting, what makes people feel better, opening up joints, really allowing to restore flow to the body. And what I have found is that when someone has their own intimate practice with themselves, with really high quality oils, and they're nurturing their skin and they're getting in touch with themselves, that they deepen the ability to know themselves, to appreciate themselves, and that translates again into how they present themselves in the world and how they're able to really be present with their unique gifts. All right, here we are in the kitchen, and I'd like to first start with just giving you a little brief introduction to the Ayurvedic concepts of winter. Like I explained when I was in the studio, Ayurveda is really a philosophy that's based on the elements of nature, and that each season has its own quality and feel. This can be on a physical level within our bodies. It's also on an emotional and on an intuitive, spiritual level as well. So basically, with winter, we are looking at the elements of air and ether. So with air, we all know the feeling of wind. We all know the feeling of too much wind and how that makes us feel, how it makes us feel unsettled. Air is also about change. It's the thing that sets things into motion, so it's breath in the body. It really is that changeability that we all kind of know with when we are in winter, and how it can really be a variable climate. The second element for winter is ether. This is a little bit of a different concept for a Western mind, but the basic concept is that it is the space between all things. So it's not a hard matter, it's not something very solid, it's the space in between all things. And it really is that potentiality of things. It's the place where the potentials of our lives, the potentials of our the next chapter of what we're going to do with our projects. It's the creative force of the elements. So with winter, we're looking at air and ether combined. The feeling, the qualities of winter. Us in Vermont are not going to be surprised by the first one, or any of these for that matter, but the feeling is cold. Makes sense, right? The second is dry, and we all know this feeling when we're in midwinter, as we are now, January, February, where things just start to get dried out. Our skin gets dry, our nasal passages get dry. So this is the quality of winter. We also have a lightness quality, windy, rough, and dry. Windy, rough, and hard. Those are the concepts. Those are the feelings of winter. So what we want to do with Ayurveda to use this system is we want to actually balance out those elements with the opposite, with things that harmonize those capacities. So with what we want to bring in for winter are the things that are warming to combat the cold, things that are moisture bringing, things that have and already bring in moisture, that are not going to take moisture from our bodies, things that are grounding, so that when the wind is whipping around, physically or even metaphorically, that we are grounded and we're solid in our projects, in our lives, in our relationships, as well as softness to combat the hardness and the roughness of winter. So we want to reduce the cold, the dry, and the harsh. So if you are, on a physical level, if you are experiencing any of the following symptoms, we can kind of tell that there's some imbalances. So that looks like constipation, it looks like dry, cracking, rough skin, when your nails start to, your fingertips start to crack. That's an indication that there's just too much dryness. Cold hands and feet, weight gain, lethargy, and a little sadness too. That will all be indications that we need to balance. So there are no judgments. It's not you're doing anything wrong or anything bad. It's just information that the body's giving us that we can then take and make applications of certain tools, certain techniques. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do now is really just run through, first I'm going to do lifestyle techniques, and techniques is not really the right way to say it. Let's say tips, lifestyle tips to help you really harmonize your winter energy. Okay, so the first one is hydration. This should be no surprise to anyone. But one of the things that we don't really necessarily feel in the winter is a desire for water. We don't have that thirst always present in the winter. So one way to help ourselves out is to have a thermos and get in the habit of filling that thermos up every morning and then cueing yourself throughout the day. One way that we can use habit, behavioral science, and habit evolution, habit trigger, is to think of a trigger that you do several times during the day, that you do repetitively, that would help maybe be the trigger. Sometimes I use, every time I want to look at my phone and spend some time just kind of flipping through, I'm like, oh, maybe I should drink some water. During my workday, if I'm in between massages or something, I'll say that's kind of a trigger for me, and I'll drink some water. Another really great tip is to use warm water. First of all, in the winter we're cold, so we want to put that warmth in there. Second of all, the body more easily assimilates warm water than cold water because we have to bring it up to our body temperature, and so we might as well be putting it in warm anyway. So warm water, I really judge how much, I put the kettle on in the morning and I judge how much cold water to warm water by just really the temperature outside. If you're totally opposed to the taste of water, a little lemon in here is fine, a little spice, whatever you like. Cumin's a good thing, even cinnamon, or something that's just going to really allow you to want to drink the water. Okay, so that's the first tip. The second tip is the moisture component, right? We want to combat the dryness. So what oil does is, so we're going to bring in oil. So I'm talking about topically on the skin, and I'm talking also about orifices of the face. So I have here sesame oil, and this is bought in actually the culinary section of any store. This does not have to be any special thing. It's cold pressed. It's a very good high quality oil. So this is sesame, and then also very warming, very heavy, very dense. Also, almond oil is a little lighter. It's a little bit more variable, so that's also a nice option for you. And this is a little bit what I was talking about in the studio about self-massage. So either after a shower or before the shower, high-quality oil, and really just creating a nice barrier between you and the elements out there, that dry, that wind. So really making sure that you're hydrated. You'll find that if any irritation's coming up, if you're feeling any short-tempered, if you start to really oil your skin and have that softness come in, it translates into the way you feel, the way that clothes are not so itchy and rubby. So oil is going to be your friend this season no matter what. I have these little, these are actually nasal. This is an oil that I had purchased that you actually can spray up into your nose that is very beneficial for lubing the nose. But it's very much just as easy as dipping a pinky into a reservoir of oil that you have in the bedroom and just doing a little bit of swooshing around so that you create that barrier. And you can do that several times a day. It's really life-changing. For me, I'm like, sometimes I feel it, I'm like, where's the oil? Time to do that. So that's lubing it up. This I have just a little bit of some essential oils here. These I chose for winter. They're more warming in quality. There's a sweet orange, there's a vanilla, this is a rose geranium. This can be paired with the carrier oils, the sesame or the almond, and this again is for the self-massage component. So again, just bringing in oil, bringing in nutrients, nurturing to yourself, it's really going to help. And then we will move to this notion of what we need to really feel balanced in this season in terms of how much activity we have. In the winter, I think we all feel it, but that what we need, our bodies need, is more rest, more stillness, more quietness. So this is really where we're paying attention to not overdoing it, not overscheduling ourselves, really allowing that time for space, allowing that time for the ether, right? The space in between things, so that we're not like, got this full day scheduled and then we try to do 3,000 things when we get home, that we're allowing ourselves to just really work our day's work and then come home and feel our fatigue. Allow ourselves to slow down instead of ramping back up when we get home and getting deeper rest in the winter. It's the time, if we look at nature, the animals are hibernating, the energy from the plants and the trees is all drawn down into the roots. It's our time to do that as well, to really honor the natural rhythms, the natural, less sunlight, and honor that by really getting the rest that you need. If you are having trouble getting to sleep at night, one of the ways that you can start to slow down and nutrify your body, often it's called golden milk, but the recipe for this is warming some type of nut milk. What I have here is just a can of just whole milk coconut milk, but you could make an almond milk. You can actually make almond milk at home with black pepper, turmeric, some cinnamon. You could even add ginger into there, and sweetening with some kind of natural sweetener. So honey's a great choice, maple syrup, and really allowing that time with that cup of tea or golden milk, as it's called, to allow you to really feel the heaviness, feel the body starting to want to just let go and let down, honoring that and really getting as much deep sleep as you possibly can. So I have two more lifestyle components for you. The first is because of the coldness and maybe hopefully you have outdoor recreation during this season, but we tend to get heavy, we tend to get a little lethargic. And so what we want to always pay attention to is that we're giving movement to our bodies. So one way to really make this automated and put this into your daily rhythm is first thing in the morning, after you use the bathroom and hydrate, get some nice, warm water in your system, do 20 minutes of some type of movement. It could be yoga, it could be weight training, it could be Tai Chi. Oftentimes what I do is I just put on some music and I just move my body and shake around and just see what feels good, see what needs some movement. And what we're doing here is we're waking up our energy body. We're waking up what in yoga we call the prana body, before we start our brain, before we turn on our brain, before we go to the phone or we go to Facebook or we start the email thing, we want to wake up the body. One of the reasons for that is that the lymphatic system, which is a part of our immune system, does not have its own pump. Like the blood is pumped through the veins, through the heart, and that pretty much is an automated process in our body. We don't have to think about that. But the lymphatic system, which is the system that starts to that packages and really helps move toxins and move metabolic waste products out of our system, does not have its own pump. So if we're just sedentary all the time and we're kind of using the same motions all the time, those lymphatic vessels in our armpits and in our major joints, they don't get squeezed, they don't get moved, and so we start to get a lot of congestion. The lymph nodes start to get really swollen, and this is where we get backed up. So it's really, really important that we move as often as possible, but the real best practice is first thing in the morning. If you can put 20 minutes of movement in, you will really see a difference in stress reduction and just generally just feeling kind of more alive. The last little lifestyle tip I have for you, and I'm sure your mom or your grandmother had told you, cover up your neck and wear a hat. It is very important that the wind does not invade this area of our body, that we really keep this really warm and protected, because this is the way that, again, we're just keeping the balance of the elements within our bodies. Okay? So now we're going to move on to the food components of this. And so the basic general rule for winter is to eat warm, mushy foods. So I'm talking pull out all the soup recipes you have, the stews, pull out the crock pot, let the crock pot be your best friend. Simple is absolutely the best, does not have to be complex, but you really want the foods that you're bringing in to be, again, warming and liquidy, because we want to combat the dryness. We also want to make sure that the digestion does not get too stagnant. So this more mushy foods, this is sweet potatoes and winter squash, really good quality, really hearty, the heartier greens. We want some of the really good whole grains that are not too drying. You can add a little bit of extra water to the grains that you cook. Protein is very important, as well as healthy fats. So get the avocados in there, the olives, don't spare on the butters and the olive oils, and really just make sure that oily component is there. It's super important this time of year for a lot of different reasons. And then avoid dry foods, avoid the crackers, avoid the chips, avoid the things that are going to draw moisture out of your body so that you are in balance. So that's like those are the general rules with food. The next thing that when I found this component of Ayurveda and really started to be really consistent with this, I just fell in love. And what I'm talking about is herbs and spices. Like, There's just something really magical about herbs and spices that I absolutely love. And when I understood it in a seasonal way, in a seasonal component way, it kind of just changed the game for me. Because again, we're trying to always balance. And so when we do that with spices, it just adds this really lovely component to our food. So what I've done here is I've created 2 different spice mixes that are really great for balancing winter. What I have the winter spice mix, and this lives on my counter next to my stove, and I really use it for if I'm going to just come home at night and have a quick soup. It'll go quick broth. It'll go right into the broth. Even I put on anything, on my eggs, in my one-pot meals. If I'm steaming, just having collards or kale for dinner, I just sprinkle that on there with a nice amount of fat. And it just makes a very simple dish come alive. So this winter spice mix is coriander powder, cumin seeds, turmeric, some salt. This time of year, salt is okay. Maple sugar, or what it called for was the dehydrated cane sugar, but I find here maple sugar might be a little bit more available, so we can use that. Powdered ginger and black pepper. So again, use spice wherever you have the opportunity. And then I have a winter salt mix here, and this can live on the kitchen table, and you can use it just as you would a salt that just has a couple other spices in there. So this is rosemary, marjoram, actually this has oregano, so sorry. Rosemary, oregano, sea salt, a little of that maple sugar, and black pepper. So great to have. And then this I just brought to show you, this is a little bit on the hotter side of a curry mix. This lives right next to my winter spice mix. If I need a little bit more heat in something, I'll add that in there. So get familiar with spices. They will become your best friend. So the next thing that is really important this time of year is really helping your digestive system be primed, and having live living foods in the mix is really important. So what I'm showing here is fermented foods. These are gingered carrots, and this right here is garlic sauerkraut. And so basically the idea here is that we want to, people originally made sauerkraut to preserve the harvest. So it's a natural wild ferment, and what it does is it really preserves all of the nutrients that are present in the cabbage, but there's also a probiotic component to it too. So getting in as a condiment, a tablespoon or a forkful of sauerkraut or living food with each meal, and then making an easy miso soup is also a great option. I think that's all we have time for today. So I hope that this was really beneficial, and I have a lot more planned for you, so please stay tuned, and thank you so much for watching.